So I think we're moving on. We have, yeah, okay, we're good on time. We have 1 hour left almost, and the last part is the call stack. So what is the call stack? The call stack refers to in JavaScript, the order that functions execute themselves and what happens when a function is done but you call another one. And so you can think of the stack as, we don't have one board, but
So like a jump
just like a table.
Yes.
Yep. But I think we don't have any.
Okay, Marco?
No.
And Marco? There. Always ready.
So I'll explain this with some examples in code right now, but just so you can visualize something, the call stack works from down to up. And that means that when we call a function, and this is sort of what I've been meaning when I say that when we read things from like a computer, it sort of saves them and it knows where they are, right? And so you have the function stack, and then you have sort of all of the stack where your variables are. And so when you define variables, the computer goes like, okay, I have this variable that's called x, the value is, I don't know, and a function was created, and then blah, blah. And so for the functions, it needs to keep track of them because it needs to know where to go back to. So when we define a function x, code, what does the computer know about this? It knows that it has a name, it has some code, but when we call it, it needs to know that once this is done, it needs to go back to here, right? Because it needs to keep executing code. And so let's say we have function x and we have another function that's called y. And we call x and then we call y. And we do something here. We have a console log, whatever. And so the call stack works, okay, I have this function, I sort of register, it's called y, I have it. I have this function, it's called x, it's there. And then it goes here and it says, okay, I need to call x. And it adds x to this stack. Goes to x, executes some code, and then it says, okay, x is done. I did that. It's removed from the stack. I already ran it. And then y is called. And then y is here. And then goes executed once in here. It comes back here. I'm done. The call stack is empty. And so what happens when we have, for example, a console log here? Because what is the console log? It's a function, right? Console, now you know, is an object, and .log is an attribute of the object. That's the function. And so I'm calling a function inside a function, right? And so let's do that again. I go into my code, I add x. I go into x, execute some code, I go into another one that's called console log. I add console log to my stack, I execute it, meaning I print to the console, I remove it because it's done, I go back into x, I'm here, x finished executing, and then I add y. But let's say that we have another function that's called set. And I execute set here. What's the stack going to look like? First one, we go into here, x. We go here, what's going to be added next to the stack? I'm adding, maybe you can see that's a good one. I'm adding set.
Yeah.
I go back here, I execute what's in set.
Yeah.
What happens to the stack when it comes back here?
Set will be deleted.
Set is done, so I delete set. I go back here, I continue executing, I get into another one. What happens now?
Log is added to the stack.
We add console log into the stack. Goes here, executed, done. We're here, we're done. Go back here, y is added. Y is here. We run it, it's done, removed.
Generate some sort of loop.
You can have, so if you have more functions inside this one and you add them, they all need to be finished before it has to continue. And that's because JavaScript has something that's called a one-threaded model. And so it always needs to finish whatever it's working on first before continuing to the next one. And so the call stack is always just one after the other. I think we have an example for, so we can work on that together. Yeah. What will the call stack look for this right here, for function A, B, and C? So we're thinking like a computer, right? We go into the function A, register. Go to function B, register. And then we go in and we call A. So A is added to the stack. We go back into A. What happens?
So a B is added to the stack,
A B is added to the stack.
and then B is over. So B is removed, yeah. And A is removed.
And A is removed, right? Yeah, that was simpler than the one that I did. So there's an exercise here that I think it would be good if you... Do you have any questions before you do an exercise on your own? It sort of makes some sense, right? Like one after the other. It depends on how you call them and what's inside them. So I think it would be nice if you try to build this stack on your own, and then we can compare it together. And so the exercise is...
No, this example maybe
Yep.
is around,
We-
they can see how.
Yeah, we can take a look at that as well, but I think there's... You can use it if you need some help in the exercise, but we can take a look at that afterwards. But so for...
See.
Yeah, there's a link in
Yeah,
there.
there's
So
a
you can
link
use it.
for-
You can use it to help with this exercise. So it says draw the call stack at every draw point. And so remember that you start drawing when you start executing, right? So the first thing that you're going to check is this one. When we actually start executing, because before the stack is empty, if you don't call the functions, the call stack is empty. So I'm gonna give you maybe 5 minutes for this, and then we can do it together and compare. So you draw it in a piece of paper. You don't need your computer. You just draw the stack on your own. I'm gonna, 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Just a heads up, I uploaded the pop, push, and shift, the part where I explained about it in the class. You're welcome.
We have 2 minutes left. Okay, so let's do it together. I'll turn on the lights because I want to use the board. So we have our call stack. We registered that we have the book plane tickets function, the book hotel, request vacation days, plan itinerary, plan trip. So up until this line, the call stack is empty. No function has been called, right? We get into this, plan trip. What happens to the call stack?
Play trip is added to the construct.
Plan trip, because it's a function that we're calling, is added to the call stack. So we have the first one. We go into plan trip. That is here.
Yes.
And this calls another function called book plane tickets. What happens to plan trip?
It remains.
It stays there, right? Because we're not done executing that function. And we need to know that we need to go back into here once this is done. So we add another function called book plane tickets to the stack. We go to that function. Book plane tickets is right on top. It has a log there. What happens?
A log is called
Console log is added
and it's removed.
and it's removed in the same thing, right? Because we execute it immediately.
Yes.
It prints to the console, it comes back, it's done, we don't need it anymore in the stack. Then we go into the next line, which says request vacation days. We add it, and we go to that function. Request vacation days is here. We add our log function,
Yes.
we execute it, we print, we remove it. We're done with it. We go into this line.
Yes.
This is done,
Yes.
and then we go back to the call stack. Request vacation days. And so we go into this, we're here now. And then, are we done executing this one?
Yes.
And what happens when it's done?
It's removed from the stack.
We remove it from the stack. So we did this, we got back to here, we're here. Are we done executing book plane tickets?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you already executed the.
We did.
So let's go up to how we got here again. Plan trip,
Yes.
added, our main function. We go into here.
Mm-hmm.
We call another function, added. We go into that function.
Yeah.
We run the log,
No.
remove. We add another function, request vacation days. We add it.
Yes.
We go to that function.
Log and
Execute the function, the log, remove the log. The function is done. We finish executing the request vacation days. When we're done executing, we remove from the stack. We remove this one from the stack, and now we're here.
remove book.
Are we done executing
Yeah,
book plane tickets?
Yes.
We're done. We're done.
We go back to plan trip.
And we go back to here,
Yes.
right?
Book hotel.
So now we're here up until line
Book hotel now.
up until line here. The call stack looks like this. Even though we've executed already,
Two functions and two logs.
Yeah.
so we're here. Book hotel. Book hotel. We go into this, the log. We add the log. Execute it, print to the console. We come back to it. We remove it. Now we are here. Plan itinerary. Are we done with book hotel?
Not yet.
Not yet, right? We haven't gone back to it.
Yeah.
We are here. So we add plan itinerary into this.
Execute log. Finish.
Plan itinerary. We go into here. We add our log, itinerary done. Execute it. Come back to it. Removed. Are we done executing plan itinerary?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
go back.
So we can remove it from the stack now, right?
Yeah.
And we are finishing with focus.
And so now we are here. We know we need to go back to this one. Are we done executing Book
Yes.
Hotel?
Yes.
Yes. So we can remove that one from the stack as well. And we go back into this. We add log, we print, we execute, we remove it. And then we're done executing plan trip. So up until here, we come here, we remove plan trip,
And it's over.
and the call stack is empty. Your call stack will always end empty because you run on the order functions. If your functions and finish executing. So let's try that tool that's in there just to see, visualize in this tool. So this is just a tool that is showing you the call stack there. And so I just copied the code that we just showed into here. So I'm gonna pause it because it's very fast. So what happened? We added the plan trip. Yeah.
Because I was thinking I need more.
Yeah. So I'm gonna rerun it because I want it to be slow. Pause. We're starting in line 34 here. Plan trip is added, right? I'm gonna resume. I can change the speed of this one, and it's very fast. So it's going to add next what? Book plane tickets, right? First, it logged something.
I think you paused it in between.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Request vacation days. It logs that. So it's doing exactly what we just did in the board, right?
Yeah.
Let's just go through it a bit slower. Line 34, plan trip is added to the stack. Book plane tickets is added to the stack. It's another function. We're still keeping the plan trip on there. We go into book plane tickets, and now we're at line 3. We're console logging the plane tickets. And we removed it, because remember that function, we just call it prints, we're done. So now we went back to the book plane tickets. Where is it? Here, yeah, line 4. We did that, and now we are adding request vacation days to the stack. We go into request vacation days, we console log, and we remove it. We're back into line number 4.
I think it shows highlights in the brown color, like what are the things that are active, right?
Yeah. And then we're done executing the request vacation days, so we removed it. We're back on line number 5. And we are done executing the book plane tickets. And now we're back at line number 28. So what's next is going to be calling book hotel, right? We're calling book hotel. It added a console log. You missed it. It was too fast. And now it's going to call what? We're now at line number 10. So next is adding plan itinerary. There it is. Calls it.
Goes to prints the console log.
Prints the console log. Removes it.
Removes the black itinerary. And then to book hotel.
Empty. Yeah? Because now that you have this whole bunch of concepts of functions and objects and arrays and all of that, you now understand that you need to create a bunch of functions to isolate your logic from other parts of it. And because order is very important, as we saw with the conditionals, you need to know in which order you need your functions to execute. And so now you know that there is a pattern of this, and it's a stack that unless the function that you're in is finishing, it can't go back to the next one. So if you have sort of dependent stuff on different functions, because now you will be creating functions for everything, you need to know how to use them together. I think we have 30 minutes left roughly. So let's go back into the cohort exercises. We did the job matching one, and so let's do the rest of those for the remaining time of the class, and yeah, let me know if you have questions. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. See you next week. Thank you.
Hi.
So maybe you haven't seen this format before. So in the Who's Online exercise, this is another way to write a function. So this is the same as writing function who, how was it? Who's online? Like this. And friends as a param. It's the same. You can keep the other format if you want. This is called a variable function. You don't need to know about it right now. So just taking a look at this, when it's talking about the output, and you see that the output is this, what is that? This is an object, right? And we need to create, so we need to return from that function an object that has the online key, which is an array, same as the offline, and same as the away. So that's what the function needs to return. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can do it, and then we can share the solution. Yeah.
The function argument that friends is the array?
Yes.
So the output is going to be a different array, right? So we have to create a new array of objects.
A new object with,
Sorry, a new object array.
yeah, a new object with arrays, yes. Because yeah, if you take a look at the output, it's an object that has properties that are arrays. So you do need to create that, yeah.
The output is saying it's an object, and inside an object it has an array.
Yes.
So we have to create an object and we have to push the properties into that object.
To push the properties into that object, you need to add it. Yeah, not push it, but you can create them. You can set the properties just away, and then 2 dots, and then your array that you have created. Yeah.
I just don't understand how we do this. How we have this output in this kind of object and array inside an object. I mean, in this case, we just have only one value, but what we have to resource.
Yeah, I can show a little bit of that. So I'm not done validating yet, but basically what I'm doing is,
Wow, you wrote so fast.
but what I'm doing is I can return here what I want, and I want online to be an array that I created previously that I pushed to it that's called online.
Where did you create that?
I don't want to show you the solution, but I created it here.
So we didn't understand that we have to create 3 new arrays. So that's
Yeah.
the problem.
You need to create 3 arrays and then use them in the output.
But why is it not in the description?
Sometimes he has to figure stuff out.
Yeah,
If you look at what the return value is in the instructions, you can infer that you're going to need that.
I'll stop sharing.
Again, I have 2 neurons working and they're fighting with each other to see if they can die.
My question is,
Hmm?
so when we have a practice of reading about this description a lot, we will understand how we have to do the code, right?
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
now I just didn't get that we have to create new arrays.
Yeah.
But will it come with practice when I keep reading a lot of
Yeah, because you will know that to return that, you need to create arrays. Mm-hmm. So we have 10 minutes left. I think it's worth going through it together. Yeah, so I'll bring my screen back up. These are not easy, by the way. These are very tough. But this is where you are now because now you understand all of these concepts. The problems are just going to get a bit more complicated.
So the homeworks are going to be like
The homework is crazy difficult. No, I'm kidding. It's not super hard. So it says that we have this input of what is this again?
it's an object array.
What is this entire thing?
Friends. Object array.
It's an array
Of
of objects. Yes. An array of objects. Yes. And we need to return this that is an
Object.
is an object with arrays. Yeah. And so the first thing it says that if someone is online, but their last activity was more than 10 minutes ago, they should be considered away. So I can't really modify how much of my screen, yay, okay. So this is my function. I'm taking in friends, which is an array, right? Yeah. And I know that I need to return an object that has 3 properties, online, offline, and away. And the 3 of those are arrays. So I'm going to start by creating empty arrays. That's fine, right? Ignore this for now, and let's move into the for loop. Because we know that because it's an array of objects, I need to iterate through it so that I know the status of each of the items in the array and the last activity, because that's part of the object, right? If we go back into this is what we're getting. Objects that have username, a status, and a last activity. So I'm in my array. We all know how the for loop works now. We're settled there. And now I created, the way that I do it so that it makes more sense to me is that I have a variable called current friend, which is friends in the index that I'm at right now, right? So when I'm at index 0, my current friend is David. At 1, it's Lucy, and at 2 is Bob. So I created this and put it away just so that I don't need to have this friends that I.status and all of that, and it just makes a bit more sense in my head. And so the first thing is, and I'm showing something that we haven't looked at yet, which is nesting the ifs. And so first we want to check that if the current friend, which is my friend in my current index,
This is
in the property
online.
status is equals to online, then going to here. But it says that we need to check also if it's online, but the last activity is more than 10 minutes ago, we need to put him in a different array, right? And so we're falling into this first statement. And then there's an if inside this if. So this was correct. His status is status online. And then we want to check that the last activity is more than 10, which is minutes. We could do this the other way around, right? I could say if it's less than 10, then push him to the online array and not to the away array. So again, many ways of doing it. This is the way that my head was thinking. And so if the status is online, because they say here that even though the last activity was 104 minutes ago, the status is still online. So we want to check for that. So we're here. We're checking if the last activity is greater than 10. We want to push this user into the away array. And so we do this. We push in the current friend.username, because again, this is an object and we only want the username in the array. If it's been less than 10 minutes, that means that he's online and we want to push him into the online array. If he's not online, we can safely assume that he's offline. And so if he didn't fall into this if, I'm assuming he's offline. And so I'm pushing that username into the offline array. Are we good until now with the validation in the for loop? Yep. And then it says that if no users are online, the output should look like this. So it doesn't add the online attribute, because remember what I showed you before, which was just building the object and the return? I couldn't really do that anymore because now I need to check for the length of the online to see if that's added there. So the way that I did it was that I created an empty object that's called result. And I'm adding this first conditional of if online.length is bigger than 0. So only if there are users in my online array will I add the online property to this result object. So if it falls into this, my result object will now be online. And then the array that's online that I created and that I've been pushing to online 15. And then I don't need to check for the rest. So I'm just saying that to this object, add also the offline property and also add the away property and set them to the arrays that I've been modifying before. And then we return that. And the last thing that it says is that if the friends that are sent in is less or equal to 0, we return an empty object. And we could do this in the beginning because we don't need to go through the for loop if it's empty. And so I'm just returning here, which means that I'm leaving, right? I won't go into the for loop. I won't do any of the rest. If it's less than or equal to 0, we return an empty object, and that's all. And yeah, so this works.
Why you only check if the online length is more than 0, but
Yeah.
you didn't check for the offline and
I only did that because it says here that if, for example, no users are online, the output should look like this. But maybe it means that we could do the same thing for all of them. Yeah, we could do the same thing for all of them. Yeah. Are there any questions about this?
I just get a little bit confused when I need to apply an if and it's an array. I always forget that I need to put the for first.
Yeah. Whenever you have an array,
When I'm alone, I don't have the logic.
yeah, whenever you have an array, you almost always need to use the for because you need to be iterating through them. You need to go through all of them. And this is the only way to do it. There are other formats or syntax to do it, but the for loop is the clearest one for me. And so once you're in the for loop, remember to always add the index I, and then that's the element that you will be comparing to if you have any conditionals inside. I'll send this one as well, this solution. And yeah, the homework is about objects and iterating through arrays of objects because that's a very similar structure to how databases work. So the database is basically an array of objects. all of it. And so when you move into the next sessions of JavaScript and Node, that's how the databases behave. And so you need to be very familiar with the fors, the conditionals, and the attributes of the objects that are inside. But yep, I think that's all. I'll upload the recording and let me know if you have questions about this, or ping me if you have questions about the homework. Remember that you need to ping me directly, otherwise I will not see it until Saturday or very late. Yeah. Thank you for today.
Thank you. Before coming to the class, I just went through week 3 homework also, and I have a doubt on that.
Let me stop recording.
Oh.